And welcome one more week to the GDE show. Today we have a couple of very strange things. First of all, I wanted to apologize for the hiatus of the past two shows where we weren't able to make it, but we are back with plenty of new things. First of all, I'm gonna say hi to my dear friend Andreu from Lleida. How are you? Long time no see.
Hello, Victor. How are you today?
Well, welcome back, welcome back. It's good to have you. We also have with us Tamas Piros, which of course is gonna be silent during our bi-weekly attempt of trying to be funny, and of course failing. But Andreu, today I have something that I believe could change the podcast industry forever. I have a plan to look either funnier or smarter or both than we have looked in the past on any show actually.
Let's see what is the
I mean,
technology.
I had a brilliant idea. Let me tell you what I'm gonna do is in the pinnacle of laziness on one side and technology on the other, I have decided to write today's script with GPT-3. What
Wow,
do you think? I have access
GPT-3.
GPT-3. I have had access
Wow.
to the beta now for a while, so I have input, two very basic sentences on GPT-3, and anything after that will be generated by the AI. Do you think that that's gonna work for us, or I mean, if this works, honestly, I believe we should do a show daily or something like that.
Okay, I think it will depend on the if the one or the other guy was buying the OpenAI technology, AI technology. I say Elon Musk or Bill Gates, one or the other will help us. I don't know. Let's go and try.
I don't know. Let's give it a try. So this is the two sentences that we have put on GPT-3. I started write a two-person funny monologue about Mars and technology. I haven't put please, so it may fail me because of that. And yeah,
And
the,
I
the the
wrote, I wrote, I wrote.
go ahead.
Welcome to the GDE show, the show where every 2 weeks we try to be funny.
And I wrote back, and we always fail. Today our script what was written by an AI. So let's see if we look funnier or smarter than in previous shows. And finally, Andrew.
Let's get started, Victor. What do you think about the news of the first drone flight in Mars?
So to be
Stop.
clear, from this moment onwards, is the AI writing this? Let's see what happens. I
Okay,
think it's great. I get the feeling that I am part of history.
for real? Every time I hear about Mars, I think about the sadness of not being able to visit it because of its lack of oxygen and the extremely cold atmosphere.
That's why when we invent that oxygen mask that allow us to breathe there, you will be the first one to go with me.
I'll go with you.
But what about the cold?
I wear a coat. Besides, it's a reward for my hard work. I'll be the first one to go to Mars. No, about the I don't know why I am surprised with that technology is able to do. In my time, I still remember when I was working as a mechanic and my boss asked me to fix a computer and I was able to do it.
I didn't know you work as a mechanic. What kind of cars did you fix?
I fix every type of cars, but I was better with the old one.
You were better with the old ones.
Yes, one day my boss asked me to fix an old Ferrari. When I looked at it, I said, I can fix that. It's the fastest car and best car that I ever seen. If I break it, it'll fit really bad.
Oh, you were like a kid. You were afraid that you could break it because you loved it. I think we all know that feeling.
Yes. What about you?
They used to call me the computer doctor, not because I was good at fixing them, but because I was good at breaking them. And that's what it finished here. We could generate more, but I think I don't know. I mean, I was looking at Tamas' faces, and I was at our probably diminishing viewer numbers. I don't think this is ready,
let me
Andrew.
let me let me say one thing. At least we smile. We have a funny moment
Yeah, I
because
mean,
we didn't read this before, so
obviously,
it
you
was
know,
new
I mean,
also for
this
us.
was
We
generated
just we just
literally
generated
before
it
the show.
before the show, so we give the OpenAI GPT-3 two phrases, and then the other phrases were generated by the
I
machine
mean,
artificial
one thing I
intelligence.
can tell you, Andrean, is We definitely weren't funny. We definitely felt smarter, but we were pioneers, and with that, I'm happy with that one. At least, at the very least, we were pioneers. So yeah, it's been
From this moment, I'm gonna call you computer doctor.
a computer doctor. I mean,
Yes, this was an invention from the machine,
no, I
man.
mean,
No,
get it. The machine invented it 100%. So it's interesting. I mean, obviously, the lack of context, and it's funny because the more you try, the less accurate it is become. I mean, this is no longer a podcast. It's inventing a story or something like
yes,
that. It's
and
been crazy. It's been crazy, but interesting to see.
it happens that sometimes the machine by itself, the code by itself, asks us, rewards us. Be careful, what I'm gonna start to write is not good. So if you want, you can stop now.
That's
So
true.
it
Yeah,
was
it's
crazy.
auto censors itself because we have been obviously trying to do some testing and auto censors itself sometimes. So I guess Andreu.
Nice Mac, nice
Oh,
Mac.
thank you. Yes, that's important. Our
Your
merchandising,
yours is Starbucks size.
I
Mine
mean,
is European
American
size.
size, Andreu. You know how this country works. You know how this country works. Anyhow,
Few calories.
obviously we failed at talking about Mars, so we're gonna have to leave that for the next week. But
Right, we can,
before,
I think we can try another time with GPT-3. Maybe if we give them more words
we can try
till
more
the
contest, and in fact,
2K limits, 2,000 words limit,
I think so.
and
Yeah.
from here we will have to start to pay. Maybe we have to pay a few dollars for every
for every show. I mean, again, if that removes the needs of writing a script, I'm gonna be fine with it. I think I'm gonna be fine with it. Anyhow, let's give finally voice to our wonderful guest Tamas Piros. Tamas, first of all, thank you for your patience and welcome. What did you think
No
about our
problem.
monologue today?
Well, I think the AI went from the Mars to Ferraris in about 30 seconds. So I think that's very impressive.
I mean, it was kind of crazy, right? To see the change of topics is it's quite fascinating to me because we were talking about the mask, about then a coating Mars. That's always an idea to
Yeah, I don't know
to take
where
to the
that came
bank.
from.
It was interesting for sure. So Tamas, you are well. We're gonna have a small introduction, obviously, but tell us something about yourself, who you are, why are you here today, and what is your expertise?
Okay, so well, I am here today because I thought this is a fun show to be on.
I mean, you were wrong, but
I'm
that's
not
okay. Yeah,
reconsidering
it
my
happens.
options, but it's okay. No, I'm kidding.
Today we can give the file to the GPT-3, so we are lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Like resort to your own,
It's just
funness.
us.
You don't need an AI to do this, right? That's not.
Definitely,
You don't need
definitely.
that. Yeah. So who I am. So my name is Tamas. Currently, I'm employed as a developer experience engineer, and you asked about expertise. It's anything related to the web, in terms of if your question was about work specific things and all that jazz. So that's what I do. I'm a GD in web technologies as well, which I think reflects on my experience with the web.
To be true, I'm waiting today to see some kind of fight between you because you two are GDEs on web technology. So I hope some differences, some fight.
We
Well,
don't
we only
fight
fight
on
other
GDE.
GDs, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we only fight, native Android GDEs and things like that. We have like our own fight club for GDEs alone, and so. But the first rule is that we don't talk about it. So I'm sorry, Andrea, but we're
very
not going to
exclusive.
satisfy you on that yet. No,
Very
I'm sorry.
exclusive.
Very
So
exclusive.
Tamas, you're working. Let's have your own minute of publicity. You're working at the company
Sure.
Cloudinary. Cloudinary, explain about what are you doing here. What is the product services that they
Sure.
give
So
us?
Cloudinary is a cloud-based solution, and they allow you to upload. Well, they allow you to work with your media assets, right? Images and videos, and what they do is, or what we do, I should say, is allow you to upload these assets to our cloud-based platform. We store these for you. We allow you to optimize them, transform them, and then we also can allow you to deliver them using a vast global CDN network, or large number of CDN servers and providers that we use. So it's essentially, you take your pictures, if you're a news outlet, an e-commerce site, you upload it there. You can shrink them, you can change colors, you can make sure that, for the right browser, the right image format is being used. There's a lot that you can do. You can do the same for videos, and therefore you achieve things like, optimization. You score very well in your core web vital scores and that kind of stuff.
I browse a little bit your webpage, and I also understand that some kind of technology related to the publicity sector. I mean, you are embedding URLs inside the images and the videos. I understand this also is possible.
Yes. So if you talk about my own personal website, which I just finished, I think a couple of days ago. So I think I'm hoping that's the one that you've seen. So what I've done there is I'm using 11t on that page, right? So I use 11t, the static site generator, to generate the HTML for my website. And then as part of that, I use Nunjux, which is a templating syntax. And what I can do with Cloudinary is I can actually take a base image, which I upload to Cloudinary, and I can then apply multiple layers on it. So what I do is that I dynamically generate a sort of social media share card using 11t and Nunjux. I take the title of the blog post, and I take that text and I overlay that as text on an image that was uploaded to Cloudinary, and then I generate this OG image meta element from that, right? So if I share it on iMessage, Twitter, Facebook, etc., then I get, for every blog post, I get the customized social share card. And I had to do that once, right? I don't need to generate that social share card manually for every single blog post that I have. It just does all of that automatically, which is going to be what I'm going to write about in my next blog post, actually. So that's an explanation, or a more in-depth explanation of this of this coming.
Nice. That's very interesting, and definitely really useful. One of the things that you will see that we have done, I believe, in every episode so far, and now it has become kind of a meme of our own show, is we really like to know. And we start our interviews very early in your life. And in fact, the one thing that we also always ask to our GDEs are, what was your first contact with technology? That moment where you realized that you couldn't do anything else, that technology is what you love. Were you a kid? Were you a teenager? Tell us a little bit about that moment that you realized, oh my God, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, it's funny. And I'm sure, well, I don't know if other people gave an answer very easily, but it's a very memorable moment for me. So I actually very clearly remember this. So what happened was, I was, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, and my dad came home with, and I remember the color. It was like this small blue book that said HTML 3.2. I was like, okay, what is this? And my dad is like, well, there's this thing called the internet, and you can make websites. And I didn't get what he was on about, right? And then he's like, well, take a look at this book. And I looked at the book, and it said, well, open up your text editor, put in H1, write in some text, save it as HTML, click on Netscape Navigator or whatever you have, open it, and then the text was there. And I was like, ooh.
I made something.
I am now the lord of this, IBM 386, right? And I think that was a moment when I realized, websites and stuff is just really cool. That I typed something in, which is, to a lot of people even today, is just colorful gibberish. But I understand it, and I can make websites with it. I can make content with it, and that was that moment really.
It's funny because
decided that that's the path for me.
It is not unique. I mean, and that's why we are asking, because everyone remembers that first moment. We don't know why, but the reality is that everyone has that moment imprinted, right? The first time that you feel that I made something, it's magic, right? It feels different, right? I mean, it's when that's for sure. So yeah, we are just confirming our bias, but 5th GDE in a row that remembers perfectly that moment.
It was a very interesting moment. Yeah,
we see, Tamas, that you are also doing some may I say, experiments on your career? I mean, besides you being you work at Cloudinary and developer, you see, you're doing paid webinars. How is this business going on? Explain us and make a little bit of publicity too.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So I do have my own business, which is focusing on, training enterprises and companies on what I call, web technologies. That's anything from TypeScript to Node.js to React, whatever I can cover and I have the knowledge for. It's a space that's very competitive because there's a lot of, first of all, there's a lot of free material out there, right? There's, people doing Twitch streams. Other people do, but they record YouTube videos.
We are not asking for money.
That's
right. I was just covering.
There's oh, maybe you should. And there are some people doing free code camp stuff. So there's a lot of free stuff out there. Then there's platforms like Udemy and some others where people can anyone can create a course.
Sorry to interrupt, but remember that we have to talk about Udemy later.
Okay.
Just in case. Just in case. If you want.
We'll see. And so even though there's a lot of free stuff out there, and you have to somehow compete with that, because why would a company ask me to do a training as opposed to tell their developers to, hey, go and learn about TypeScript. So one sort of differentiating factor that I found is, first of all, they have a person, either remotely or actually in person, when I could go in person to various companies. And it's that access to this expert, which makes things variable for them. But it's also the fact that when you are tasked to learn some kind of a technology, it's going to be very difficult for you to sort of piece all these puzzles together, put these puzzles together, right? So you go to free code camp, you get, and I'm not saying that any of these resources are bad, they are very good, but they teach you one thing, and then another resource will teach you another thing, and then a third resource will teach you something else, and now you have to make sure that you understand the big picture. It's not necessarily true that all these different trainings from these different sources are consistent. And again, where I try to bring in value is that I'm going to teach you, whatever you ask from A to Z in a consistent way, and it's going to be in the highest quality possible. So, but it's challenging to stand out from the crowd, I have to admit.
I don't want to go deeper in the Udemy stuff if you don't want, but because we also have no, it's up to you. It's in your social network, so I don't take anything. I'm not inventing anything. We have the experience with other colleagues that, for example, they started to use Fiverr and doing plenty of contents, and then suddenly having problems with the platform. Also, people stealing their contents and reselling it. I mean, it's a very difficult segment, as you say.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but also I firmly it's the future and it's the present, and it has to be pushed out because there is plenty of people that needs to be trained and I think personally that every time more that universities are a little bit out of place and a little bit, I'm saying only a little bit out of budget for people, more in these pandemic days that you're paying for an enormous amount of quantity to go to a place that you're not going. So I think this has to be pushed forward. So
I also work with universities as a sort of guest lecturer. They have students on various software engineering courses, and they brought me in as a person to give a workshop on very specific technologies that they thought would be valuable for the students once they graduate. So that was a very good opportunity, both for me and for the students.
No, and then university, is just a window in time when you are young. And if something we have learned now that we are no longer young, probably any of us on that piece, right, is that this in this business, if you stop learning, you are dead, right? I mean, there is no, you cannot do web technologies without doing that. It's constant learning, and having the right resources, right? Because it's very different when you need to update yourself or keep yourself on the top of that wave of new content and that content of new technologies. It's something interesting. And on that, I have a very GDE Web Technologies question for you, and is
Sure.
I see that you are a cinema fan, so there is a movie that I love, of course, where Bill Murray is trapped in a loop, and the same day repeats over and over.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog
Yeah.
Day, correct. So
Which is pretty much 2020 for us.
yeah, basically. But I feel technologically Groundhog Day for a couple of years now, and it's at the very beginning of the web, everything was done on the server, right? PHP, server side stuff.
I know what you're getting at.
Very
Yeah.
little
I
on
had
the
exactly
client,
the
right?
same thought.
And now all of a sudden we are reinventing server rendering, and I feel like we already did this. We discarded for a reason. What's going on? I mean, I am the only one that feels trapped on a time loop. What's wrong with people?
So honestly, I put more thought into this as I want to admit, but I had exactly the same thought, right? Where I was thinking we had the LAMP stack, 15 years ago. There was something in this case, it was PHP generating HTML and then sending it to the browser. So we were doing that, right? Then we moved to let's put all the processing to the browser, and let's forget servers, and then let's essentially use the browser as the main execution engine for everything. And then now with the Jamstack, we're saying, well, what if we generate HTML and serve it up? You know what I mean? But then I was thinking that the difference is the tooling around it. We have the tools, the services, the infrastructure around us that we didn't have 15 years ago. So maybe that's one of the advantages, right? So yeah, we do server-side rendering kind of similar to how we've done it 15 years ago, but we didn't have all these companies that would, on a Git commit, save your code, publish everything, invalidate the CDN cache, and make your site available in 30 seconds. So I think that's one of the key differences in here. But yeah, we kind of reinvented the wheel. It's just the chassis around the wheel, which is very different.
You are way more polite than I am, because I feel sometimes, like
I'm the guest.
A retired old man, yelling at a construction worker, "You are doing it wrong."
Yeah,
it's like I have that feeling on me of
behind the curtain, what's happening there?
Why? It's like yeah. I've been. I have to admit, I have also been putting way too much hours into thinking on what happened. I mean, what lessons did not we learn to go back, right, on that? Sorry, Andreu, I had to add that question. Is the first GDE Web Technologies that we have? I needed to ask.
Yeah. I told at the beginning, I'm waiting to see some kind of fight, but I think I'm seeing you are just sharing your.
I think we're gonna. Today we are gonna share our frustrations.
But let me change the order of the conversation.
Please.
Just some kind of difference. I see, Tamas, you're a Star Trek guy. Is that right? You like the Star Trek movies?
No.
No. Okay, I was wrong.
It's Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars. I'm noticing. Okay, it was to trying to make a joke. I see the three posters behind you. So you're a Star Wars guy?
I am a Star Wars guy.
Explain us about your Star Wars stuff.
Oh my God.
We need another program for this.
Okay, you need another camera pointing that way and that way. I have everything Star Wars. I have Star Wars Lego. I have Star Wars books. I have Star Wars comics. I have a Star Wars tabletop game called Star Wars Legion. I have the other version of it called Star Wars X-Wing. I have Star Wars.
You are a collector.
Do you see
you are
those?
A collector, so you collect.
So
stuff.
Those are. Well, actually, I can wait. Let me show you. I'll show it to you here, right? So I have these things, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
These are like minifigures that belong to a board game that you sort of glue together, you paint them, and then you play. So I have all these boxes lying around everywhere. And those things are waiting to be painted.
Nice, nice,
very
nice,
nice.
nice,
So
nice.
That's
this is
my pandemic hobby.
we can say that you have at least two ways of entertaining yourself. One is doing Star Wars things, and the other is soccer.
Yeah,
No,
it's like you read everything about me and then you
sports.
reversed everything.
I'm reversing because that's the point about making you on a point that you don't understand what's going on. So we were looking your
Of course, I
website and
mean,
your
we do
social
we do
media,
with our
and
research. We do our research.
we saw a little bit of soccer and very special
You do,
moments.
yeah. I do. I'm actually wearing the T-shirt of that
Yeah,
football team, by the way.
yeah,
I do support a team from Rome.
yeah.
I used to play a lot of football myself, or soccer for those in the US.
I just say soccer because Victor is living in San Francisco. They don't know what football
I,
means.
I I have been living here for too long at this point. Yeah, I've been living here for too long.
Yeah, I used to
If
play a
you say
lot, but
football, if you say football, they don't understand. So
yeah, I like football. I like the term football because it's you use your feet to kick a ball. With the
So
other one, you
It
we can
run
makes
say
around
sense,
with an
right?
egg in your
Yeah.
hands. So
you're a
it's a
fan
different thing.
of Star Wars and also a soccer fan, both football fan.
I would say I liked football more in the past, not so much these days. I started to play. Well, I'll let you get to that. Maybe you get to that part. There's another sport in my life which is very important.
Too
I
much.
know water polo, water polo.
You did your research.
We
Yes,
did our
that's
research. I told you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we definitely do. I
Say the
mean,
images.
one of the things that we try to do here, right, and is it's funny because we most of the GDE community, we know each other on a very limited setting, right? So one of the ideas that we had on the GDE show is that Android expert that write the books you read to do your first application. It's also a person. He has a history. That girl that you see that now is leading literally a cloud team on a bigger on a massive startup in Spain. That girl, was a little girl that had to learn and go to university. So what we try to do on the GDE show is kind of show that other facade, right, of what is behind the GDE, right? What's the life
Yeah.
on the dead, and it's interesting, right? Because we are so used to meet each other on a technical setting that GDEs have families, GDEs have hobbies, GDEs do other stuff apart from being there. So it's always an interesting piece of it. But
True.
yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? Because
it's also very
having,
scary to
sorry, yeah.
to hear how much you found about me without me explicitly telling you where to look.
No, it was not as
Maybe
difficult.
I should revisit my sort of
We
internet.
only went
your
2 weeks.
your social publications and things like that.
Yeah, my social footprint is apparently massive.
I only go 2 weeks in Twitter, not much than 2 weeks. So let's change again the conversation, Tamas. So explain us, for example, how did you enter the GDE program? How do you know about it, and how do you get the point to enter being a GDE on Google Technologies?
So I was working a lot with Works.js, which is an open source JavaScript library that Google created, and it's for progressive web apps, right? So you can create progressive web apps with Works.js, and so I was creating, PWAs are also my sort of, I categorize them into web tech, right? It's something that I do, and I work with PWAs, and I do workshops on them as well. And so I was working with Workbox, and then I had, very specific questions for a project that I was working on, and then I contacted the creator of the project, who is Jeff Posnick, who works at Google.
Yeah.
And then, he helped me out. And then I basically created one of the very first plugins for Workbox, because it's, as I said, it's an open source system. And I think as of version 3, they allowed developers to write plugins. And I think I created the very first plugin, and I worked a lot with Jeff to implementing it. He helped me with, making it work in a way that I wanted to. And then as part of that conversation, he said, well, I like what you've done. Why don't you just, take a look at this GDE program? So I had a look, I applied. And essentially it was him and but not an introduction. I actually forgot how the process went, but it was me talking to him and working on that Workbox.js project and then releasing that plugin for them, which actually allowed me to join this program.
That's awesome, and I
Very
couldn't
nice.
think of a better ambassador for you to be proposed. Obviously, everyone needs a Googler and a GDE to kind of support the candidacy on
Yeah.
that. I cannot imagine a better Googler
Yeah,
for you
I
to
was very
join
lucky with
the.
that. Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. I didn't know
yeah.
at
And
all.
Josh is an
You
amazing
see,
guy as well. Yeah.
yeah, he is. He is. He is. That's absolutely true. And also, that what is surprising about the Googlers, at least the ones involved on GD on the GDE program, is how open and how helpful they are. And this is kind of another recurring theme of the GDE program and of the almost all of the people that we talked about. We really love sharing, right? I mean, community is a massive part of it, and not only kind of being a close community as the GDs are, with in the end there is a gate that you need to be able to pass on that aspect, but also the part of the community looking outside, which is, I believe that a lot of GDs have that feeling of I am who I am. I learned what I learned because of the community, and there is also kind of this feeling of needing to give back, right, to that community that basically made us and taught us what we know. What
Yeah.
is your feeling? How do you feel about that sharing part of the role, if you want, and what are your best stories of how your in the end teachings or sharings have shaped the community?
So I don't know if you know Girls in Tech Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, the group, right? So I don't know how, but I did a workshop for them once or twice. I think 2 years ago in Madrid, and and ever since we have this relationship. So basically, what I do these days is there are some conferences that offer a speaker fee or some sort of a monetary payment for the speaker. So what I do, and whether it applies to GD or Cloudinary, it doesn't matter. It's just based on the conference or depends on the conference rather. And of course, I can't really take that money because of various contractual obligations for the companies that I work with. But what I do is that I tell these organizers to funnel that money to, and there are two groups that I use, and one is Girls in Tech Spain, so they benefit from all the speaker fees, and the other one is Pioneras, which is again a bunch of ladies learning to code, and that's a group in Colombia. So I'm trying to use the fact that I'm being invited to events, the fact that I speak at events, and I try to give back to the community. And these are the two groups that I work with. And I think I sincerely hope that this is helping them to launch further events, to promote themselves, and I'm sure they're doing it because I see a bunch of tweets, and it just makes me feel good as well, because they're really thankful, and they're like, oh, thank you, this is so nice of you, and it's just a nice feeling,
Definitely. No,
to
I
give
mean,
back.
I know what you mean, and actually, this one we didn't find out on that piece. That's something that you don't publicize as much, definitely, because we didn't find out, and that's
I,
that's amazing. We love that.
but it was, yeah.
I mean, no, but it's really great, and it's a great initiative, because I know plenty of speakers that, same as you, do not have the ability to get paid for those because of other contractual obligations, and they kind of just leave the fee be, right? And they do it unpaid. But I like your initiative way more, and I'm gonna start doing it. I think it's a great idea to just
Yeah,
funnel back that
if
to
they want to give
organizations
it
that you
to me,
support.
I give it to someone else, right? It's yeah.
Definitely, definitely. No, I love that. I think it's an excellent idea. You mentioned progressive web apps, and I have to go. Even though I'm gonna talk in a moment about books and flowers with Andreu, but I have one web technologies question more for you regarding that
Sure.
PWAs, right? I mean, I've seen, if you look basically at the heartbeat of people looking at PWAs versus native applications, right? Which is kind of I believe the false narrative that we were on a few years back on it's gonna be
Hmm.
one or the other, and I don't think that's gonna be the case. But
Yeah.
we have seen kind of PWAs go from being created to being extremely popular, and this is gonna change the way we do apps. And now I believe we are kind of on the tail of that excitement or of that hype curve, and we see PWAs less I would say less mentioned but more used. So what is your feeling on that future? What is the PWA's outlook gonna be in 5-10 years, in your opinion?
So if you take a look at the couple of presentations from the various Google events from the past year or so, all the Chrome Dev Summits and Web.dev and some others, they do talk about exactly the subject, the sort of future of PWAs. And they actually, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, there was this person talking about PWA and the future of it, and they presented a timeline where they said, in the next months, the Chrome is going to make all these APIs available, and then in the next 1 year, it's going to make additional APIs and functionalities available to progressive webs. And the things that I've seen there were like, wow, like Bluetooth API and the file selector, and then save files, and then they're really going to try to go as close to being a native app when it comes to PWA, right? They're going to give you all the features that you need. Because if you think about it, PWAs 5 years ago could work offline, send you notifications, and do a bunch of things. But if you take a look at them now, you can edit files, save files, and open files, right? Which will directly touch your file system. And you can do that as a PWA. So you could do like image editors and
Yeah.
all sorts of interesting things.
Web USB,
So I
web
think that's
Bluetooth, web NFC. It's crazy.
everything.
Right? I mean,
Yeah,
have
exactly.
of
All
it.
these things, right? So all these APIs are going to be made available for PWAs. So I can't for sure tell you what the future is going to look like, but I can certainly say that there's a lot of development to trying to get PWAs to behave more like native apps. I also didn't like that sort of war between I need a native app, I need a PWA. What I tell people during my workshops is that if you would like to have a website and maybe a native-like application, then do a PWA, because then you can work with the technologies that you are familiar with, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc. You don't need to do a website. You don't need to do an Android app and an iOS app. You can do everything together and just serve it up differently on a mobile phone, etc. So, yeah.
Absolutely fair. Yeah, no, and I think that's kind of the right approach, right? And is in the end, the web gives you an opportunity of doing that code once, run everywhere for real, right? That's the old Java promise, but the web actually allows to do that. So, Andreu, you have a comment on
Sure.
on that piece. What is that flower and what is that book? Tell us.
So on the 23rd, for us yesterday, for wherever people is seeing this program in YouTube or other places, it was 23rd of April. It was St. George Day, San Jordi, we call it here in Catalonia. And here we have a very nice thing to do this St. Jordi Day, that we go to the streets. This year, we do it again a little bit. Last year we were totally in lockdown, so there was nothing to do. But this year we started to have a feel of normality, and we went outside. And then it's typical that men gives a rose to the woman, rose like this one, the one I give to my wife Rosina, and also woman usually give a book to the men. This is a typical day. So for this reason, the 23rd of April also is the World Book Day. But I'm showing you not only this nice rose. I think always showing a plant and this precious flower is interesting. But also I'm going to show this book, Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus. So you're smiling. This is not to smile, but let me explain you.
I know it's really scary. Gentrification in San Francisco.
So you live in San Francisco. This book, I took it from my last trip there. It was of course, 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, and before the pandemic. And it was what I want to say to talk with you two guys is that how the things change in no time. This book was explaining this moment of people living in San Francisco being so tired of plenty, I will say so with high income developers living in going to the city and then displacing the locals to they don't have enough money to get the places to live. So there was a very sad situation in the city. It was 2.5 years ago, something like this. And then some people started to throw rocks at the Google bus. They have to change the Google bus to get rid of the brand because people understand that this was a Google bus and they throw the against the bus. So why I'm saying this? Because this is not happening anymore because we have the pandemic. So my question is, Tamas, how the pandemic affected your life and your events, your situation? Please explain because we know you live in Budapest.
Yeah.
So Victor is now in San Francisco. I'm living in Spain, near Barcelona. So every country, every city has a different situation. Explain us a little bit how's been your pandemic year and how do you see the future?
Sure. Sad, I think. It was very challenging, right? Both from a personal and a professional perspective. I think from the professional perspective, things moved along faster because, we went from physical events to online events in just a matter of a couple of months, right? So there were, lots and lots of online events happening. Also, because I work from home for the past 10 years, that wasn't a massive change, right? I mean, I have my setup. I always had my setup, and I heard all these other people complaining about, oh my god, I have to work from home, and I was like,
I didn't quite new.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand. I mean, I do understand the challenges, but to me, it was like, well, this is how I live, so I know. And then there's a thing where you go from 50-60% of your time traveling, not just for work, but for just for fun, to zero in a matter of weeks. Literally, right? So I basically, I think it was last year in February. I was in Israel. I landed home, and I haven't seen the airport ever since. That was like a year and 2 months ago, right? It's tough. It's challenging. And I don't want to end this show on a very sad note, but it takes, you may need to get some help to get adjust to this, and I had to get that as well. It was very, very difficult on a personal level to accept the fact that I can't go anywhere, I can't travel, and I can't live the life that I had. Right? It's a completely different life that I live now that I lived, for 10 years or 15 years. So it was very difficult. Things are getting better now. I'm still waiting to be vaccinated. I read all these people, especially in the US and other parts of the world, like, hey, I got my second dose, and I'm like still waiting for my first one.
Victor is already got his first shot.
Yeah, I got my first shot a few weeks back.
Mine is going to take probably a couple of months.
Me too.
Still, and even that's a lucky scenario, right? And in terms of the future, I don't know. I stopped because here's the thing, right? People ask me, "Oh, are you looking forward to 2021? Live events?" And I'm like, no, because I don't want to give myself false promises and then go back to the state where I used to be. So I'd rather just wait and see what's going to happen. There's many factors, right? There's the cases in India that are very concerning to lots of people now. There's also the fact that a lot of people don't want to get vaccinated, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, it's facts. People want to get vaccinated. People don't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah, there is a multivariable scenario where before we were looking forward to an end, right? And now it looks like it's gonna be something new, which is not the pandemic, but not what it was before either, right? And it's gonna be something in the middle still to be defined, which is interesting to say the least, right? And again, I mean, we also don't want to finish the show on a dark note, but you mentioned something very important, which is absolutely fine, and that I think it's absolutely worth to kind of put out there, right? In whatever channels, and it is absolutely okay to get help on a situation where your life changes from one day to another. It is absolutely okay to get help, and both in your professional and in your personal life, it's absolutely okay, because again, I mean, a change like that, right? And I remember when the pandemic started, most of my geeky friends, right, we were almost joking about it, right? I mean, we have been a geek, we have been in front of our computer, in front of our games, in front of our tabletop or Star Wars DVDs or whatever it is forever. This won't affect me, right? And 1 month and a half in the pandemic, I was going out into my terrace with my feet outside just to get a little bit of sun and air on that piece. So we are way more social, and we need nature and fresh air and sun way more than we were aware of on our culture probably. So at the very least, we learned something about ourselves during this past year.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
At the very least.
So for me, I got two things from your explanation, Tamas. One thing is that you say that you were used to travel 50 to 60% of the time. That's it's the same for us. Usually people, the first thing, I don't know you, I'm pretty sure the same. The first thing when you receive a phone call, this is a strange sound that a little computer you have on your desktop suddenly rings, and you take and you listen to another person. The first question was, where are you now? Because they never know where you were. No, the second question was, are you in California? That was the second question for me and for Victor.
Yeah.
And also we were traveling around. This is that, and I firmly believe that we will start before the year ends to travel again a little bit at least. No one knows how the pandemic is going to be, because as you say, there is many different questions that are not regulable by anyone. I mean, no one knows what will happen. The other question was that I call it the go streaming frenzy. I just end an article for a newspaper for next week that they asked me about the streaming frenzy I got in in the last year. Part of this next to our colleague Victor, and the numbers are amazing. So I made a research of my own products. So I produce 4,000, almost 5,000 minutes of content, something like 100 different streamings in 1 year, 195 to be exactly. So in a regular year, because we, as you say, Tamas, we do this from years and years. So we are used to stay at home, to have our station, to do the work, whatever. It's not to make video conferences. Video conferences were absolutely new for people. For us, was something regular.
It was regular thing. Yeah.
Regular because we talk with people from around the world. But I'm saying that I see that in the upcoming months and maybe a year or two, we're gonna have the streaming frenzy, and the problem is that we don't know how to control this, because everyone is a little bit tired of these kind of interactions, but that's the point. So to not make a bad finish of the show, I would like maybe Victor repeat that the starting point was very nice. I mean, I agree that with the GPT-3, maybe we can do some other stuff for the new shows. I will try.
We definitely have to try on that piece, but that's the sad truth about these podcast conversations that we have started, and is the moment that we don't want to stop is when we have to, so it's the tragedy of this. When the conversation is at its highest is when we need to cut it. So it's but I mean, the good piece is that one of the things that Andrew and I are already convinced on is that to any GDE that want to repeat, in a few months or in a year time, we definitely gonna do on that piece, because just to see how life changed for the guests that we now consider friends after our first conversation. So again, Tamas, thank you very much for taking the time today. Thank you very much for being such a good sport with our no funny jokes and our absolutely on point research, I have to say, on that piece. So it's been great to have you and to get to know a little bit more about you. It's been a true pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all. We are going to see you back in 2 weeks with another GDE and episode 6 of the show. Thank you very much and have a good day. Andreu from Lleida. Bye bye. Tamas from Budapest.
Bye
See you
bye,
all. Bye.
GPT-3. Bye bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.